All right, Bull, as you know, man, I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with boosts or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Before. Let's get right into the Cavs. So free agency started unofficially at 6 p.m. yesterday, guys. That was the time where teams could negotiate. It's like the tampering period in the NFL. Yep. The difference, like everything else, unfortunately for the NBA and certainly for Major League Baseball, the NFL does everything better than Major League Baseball and the NBA, whereas the NFL's has like 48 hours of tampering, and everything that happens in that 48 hours is legit. The NBA, it's like it's a week now before anything official can happen. We have these announcements. Sometimes guys renege. We've seen that before. It happens every once in a blue moon in the NFL, but I don't know. I don't know why they do it that way, but it is what it is. The bottom line is there's been a lot of action, guys, but the Cavs, to this point, have not been involved in anything, including a couple of important moves to determine where their cap stands, signing Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Before we get into the emotion and the reaction to the nothing they've done, Mike, give us a little background as to why it's important, why there is time sensitivity to the Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley potential extensions.
Yeah, it's important that the Cavs get some sort of clarity on what's happening with those two in particular, because entering the offseason, if you add all their salaries up and include Isaac Okoro in that, who's now a restricted free agent because they extended the qualifying offer, the Cavs have a mid-level exception to use to sign a free agent. Now, the mid-level exception varies from anywhere around $4 million to about 13-ish, $14 million that you can use, but the Cavs will not go into the second apron of the luxury tax this offseason. There is a 0.0% chance the Cavs enter that second apron, so until they have some clarity on the final numbers of Donovan's extension and Evan's extension and even Jared Allen, who's extension eligible now, they don't know how much of that mid-level exception they can use without putting them in the second apron, which then comes with some severe and legitimately harsh penalties that the Cavs and other teams around the NBA really don't want any business dealing with. So until they get an answer on, hey, Donovan, you're getting the max, you're taking the full max, which I fully expect him to do. Hey, Evan, are you taking the full max or are you going to take something slightly less? We saw Scotty Barnes in Toronto sign his rookie max up to $279. We saw Cade Cunningham sign his for a tiny bit less, but still in the max range. Those little bit less can equal a few more dollars for the Cavs to use in free agency on that mid-level exception. So until we get some sort of clarity on what Donovan and Evan and even potentially Jared Allen do, the Cavs are kind of hamstrung and handcuffed in terms of signing free agents, which is a bummer because we've seen other teams in the East improve, and there's still some guys on the board who the Cavs should be able to target. But those names are falling off the list pretty quickly now.
Wasn't it Evan that said he wants the full rookie max or nothing at all or something like that? He don't want to talk unless it's
there are levels to the max, but yeah, he's going to get.
I don't know. Has he said that publicly, or is that just what everybody believes?
Windhorst said he heard that is where it started, but he hasn't come out publicly and said that.
So I guess the question I have is, again, I've been talking about planning for 6 to 8 months. It's, you've had an opportunity to figure out who the head coach was. The Cavs had the longest head coach search. You've had a long time to look at who the free agents are, and you've had a lot of time to negotiate deals with the guys that you have. My question is, it seems that other teams around the league are getting those things done, and the Cavs are still sitting here late doing a press run on the coach when time is of the essence.
Yeah, Mike, you were giving them a pass for that. The Cavs made a mistake. They should have done this announcement during the week or even on the weekend. Who cares?
With Atkinson's presser?
The first day of free agency shouldn't be when you're having a press conference for the coach.
Well, Atkinson's been in Paris with the French national team. He just got back to Cleveland this weekend.
All right, so don't do a press conference today.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Put it off. Whatever. You talk to him whenever. What? I asked you before the show, we were all chatting on the phone, I said, are there any other players on any other teams in similar boats to Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley that have not signed their extensions that teams are expecting to sign? like the Cavs. And you said no.
Well, Jalen Green in Houston
Yeah.
is in
Okay.
the same situation that Mobley is.
Yeah.
The top 4 picks in that draft are 4 of the 5.
Okay.
Cade Cunningham, who signed his rookie max.
Right. Yep.
Barnes.
Jalen Green, who's second, who has not signed yet.
Okay.
But who wants a max.
But Houston's got a lot of cap space, don't they?
Yes, but they have a bunch of guys they have to sign. So
Okay.
they're in a decision process. 3 Mobley hasn't signed, 4 Scotty Barnes has signed. So 2 of the top 4 picks in
But
that
Houston's
draft.
also not in win now mode as a team.
But neither is Toronto or Detroit.
Okay. My point is that the Cavs are in win mode.
Oh, no.
Win now mode, right?
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
and,
you're right.
And they can't afford to have holdups. Now, the reality is they're not going to be involved in any big-time free agents anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a list of, lower-tier free agents that the Cavs should be involved with, and they may lose their opportunity
Yes.
to be involved with some of those guys.
They lost out on one this morning already, who we'll talk about in a sec. But I don't have a good answer to why
Yeah.
Donovan and the Cavaliers have not come to some sort of
Yeah,
agreement
what is
yet.
happening?
They were able to start this negotiation period legally speaking. I'm sure all season they've
Yeah.
been talking, but from the legal, according to the NBA bylines and rule book, the day after the finals ended, Donovan and the Cavs could start talking on extension. Pascal Siakam in Indiana signed his $189 million extension, which is not the full max, but it's close, the day after the finals ended.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours of that open period, that happened. That was June 18th. It is now July 1st.
Yeah.
They were out in Los Angeles all weekend with Donovan at his elite high school camp. I don't really know what the negotiation is because I'm sure it's, Tyvis, you want the max?
Yeah.
It's not, hey, we're arguing over
What's
14.
the speculation? Do we think Donovan's
I
holding it up?
I have. I
And
haven't
how come
got a
there's
good
been no
answer.
reporting on the Mobley extension?
I don't have a good answer. Mobley was out there in LA with them this weekend. So I don't have a good answer to that side of it.
I don't-
But it is weird that there hasn't been any type of known
Because-
progress made on an extension that we all know is going to be the max. It's not like a
Right, it's not like you're
haggling over money.
negotiating a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
The thing about this whole thing is that it's holding everything else up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like
And that's fair. That's fair.
Everybody else is getting better, and we still stuck on. We got A done, which is the
Yeah.
coach. Now we still stuck on B, while everybody else is making their team better. You watch one of the teams that you got to compete with in the East make splash moves, make big moves. Now, granted, they got
3 of them.
They got who's the third? Philly.
KCP, that's a
Hey,
big sign him away from.
I was arguing with somebody on Twitter. They trying to act like that's a nothing move. The thing with Orlando, they got better because KCP is a champion. KCP can guard different positions,
shoot.
and
He
he's
can
a
shoot,
shooter.
yeah.
The thing that kept us between the only reason that Orlando lost that series is
Shooting.
they couldn't buy a bucket down the stretch up 20.
They need a
on
point
game
guard
7.
too, right?
I mean,
and they still.
But you're right.
They
yes,
still have more cap
ultimately
space
they
too.
couldn't shoot. Banchero had no help in that series.
Now,
And they still pushed it to 7 games.
we're going to talk about the big picture Cavs roster in a sec, but
Yeah.
you mentioned, Ty, there are some guys on the board whenever the Cavs do decide to dip their toe in free agency who can improve this roster. Now, it's not going to be the same level of improvement as a Paul George or a Mikal Bridges or a KCP. The Cavs aren't shopping in that bin, but there are guys available unsigned at this moment at 11:15 on Monday morning who can help the Cavs, and I know we're going to talk about some of those guys who we think fit best with the Cavs'
Yeah.
current roster. So, Bull, you want to
Let
kick us
Tyvis
off?
go.
Tyvis,
Who'd
wanna
you
start
pick,
off?
Tyvis?
Well, I had 2 out of the names that we had all to choose from. The
Yeah.
2 guys.
You want to read the names real quick?
Yeah, read the names.
So I just picked it from Chris Fedor's article yesterday
Yeah.
on potential targets. I think he did a pretty good job covering all the bases. I asked you to pick a name from this list. Buddy Hield, Malik Beasley, Gary Trent Jr., Nick Batum, Sadiq Bey, Kelly Oubre Jr., who has already signed and gone back to Philadelphia, Luke Kennard, Precious Achua, Dario Saric, and Jalen Smith. Smith was my pick. We made stats and a Canva for him this morning.
Yeah.
He signed with Chicago about an hour and a half ago, so he's off the board. So out of those guys,
Who do you got?
Tyvis, who you go with?
I went with either Malik Beasley or Buddy Hield. The reason I went with Malik Beasley is because at a time last year, I think he had one of the highest rated 3-point percentages, and he was doing well. Now, towards the end of the season, he kind of disappeared for the Bucks, but he still provides that shooting that you need, and he's a proven shooter. Buddy Hield is another guy that's a shooter that obviously when he went to Philly, he took a lot of shots, big volume shooter. I mean, he shoots a ton of them, but he has the ability to knock those downs, in big moments. I think that when you think about the Cavs last season, it got to points of the game where they got real stagnant. Nobody could buy a bucket. You think about the Orlando losses, nobody could buy a bucket.
Yeah.
You need somebody that can come in, maybe off the bench, maybe even if he is a starter, that can come in there and just get a spark, just one. You need to see somebody make it. And I look at Buddy Hield, he could be kind of like a J.R. Smith, not with the dunking athleticism, but with the fact that when he gets hot, he can be streaky. And I feel like you can add that to there, and he can be a success and help you win a ton of games. So him and Malik Beasley both have good three-point percentages that can come in there and get you some buckets off the bench.
I did see, by the way, the Knicks lost Isaiah
Hartenstein.
Yeah,
He went to OKC. Great signing for the Thunder.
You listen. The Kelly Oubre thing hurt me a little bit, bro. I like his athleticism. He always plays well against the Cavs, so he's off the board. Smith is off the board today. So listen, I've always said I like Buddy Hield. I like the fact that he can shoot. I mean, he's gonna give you that spark off the bench. I mean, he's not no grade A elite defender or anything like that. But the thing that you really want is you need guys to be able to come off and do something. When George Niang wasn't hitting shots, couldn't offer you nothing else, right? Sam Merrill couldn't hit a shot after the All-Star break. Buddy Hield is a guy that is a bona fide scorer in the league. He's more athletic than people give him credit for. He can at least put the ball on the floor a few times and pull up. So out of those names, which don't really move too much the needle for the Cavs, I think Buddy Hield to me is the best option.
He was the guy I chose also, but Mike, I want your take on this because I was reading that a lot of people thought when he went to Philly he'd be really good on a good team, and then it didn't really turn out to be the case.
He's a fine player. He's just a guy who provides not a ton of playmaking.
Yeah.
He's just a scorer. He's a guy you put in. He's going to get shots. You have to run stuff for him. But if he has the ball, the chances of it getting kicked back out are pretty slim in the way Philly played, which is a lot of ball reversals because they want to get you on one side of the court, then have Embiid go to the other side, reverse it around so he gets a more favorable post-up play. I didn't think it was a great fit. But he can shoot. There's no doubt about it. If you're looking for probably the most prolific scoring option out of that group, it is Buddy Hield. He wasn't my first choice, but I understand the idea and the reason you'd be excited about it.
But when you think about if Kenny Atkinson is coming over here with some of that Golden State offense, then him or Malik Beasley would be perfect.
Yeah.
You got guys that's running motion, that's running through screens, and you setting up plays like that.
I like Beasley.
Then you absolutely would take that. These guys is knockdown shooters. So if you got guys that's running through screens and they're going to catch it and shoot, then those two are perfect options.
And he's a better player than Strus, right?
Who, Buddy?
Buddy Hield.
Yeah,
maybe offensively.
He's not. He doesn't defend at all.
Yeah, offensively.
They're in the same vein,
guys. I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I've been so I don't want to watch the Cavs play, and I hate the regular season. And I feel the same way, but G's gonna hate me for this. It breaks my heart to say this with him here.
Oh man!
But the Cavs' best course of action, at least it seems.
Well, yeah.
Is to stay with the core four. Yeah. And I don't even like saying core four.
There still could be a trade here.
There could be.
But free agency is not the way to upgrade
There could
this
be,
roster.
Mike, but the reality is that Darius Garland does not have much trade value.
Yeah.
And you can't trade him at pennies on the dollar.
And Chris Paul just went to the San Antonio Spurs. That was one of the places that you could have at least thought they could have got Vassell and some picks, maybe.
But he's not a long-term option.
I get that. My thought. This is the problem.
I don't think Chris Paul takes the Spurs out of the Darius Garland sweepstakes.
Yeah, it's not a long-term option.
It's not a good thing. It ain't like, oh, this is great for the Cavs.
I'm just saying I don't think it completely says, hey, we're set at point guard for the time moving forward. But listen, I agree with you. It doesn't help their chances.
I think the best
but
chance,
it doesn't take them off.
And maybe nobody believes. I don't even know if this is realistic, and maybe you guys don't think it is. I'm not sure. I think the best chance for the Cavs to be a legit contender in the East is that they find the right coach, which we don't know yet, and he makes the current – not that they shouldn't get better around these four guys. Obviously they have to. but he gets the most possible out of these 4 guys together. I think that's probably the best course of action, and maybe that's not good enough. I don't know. I'm definitely not an authority on it, but if Kenny Atkinson and his staff can turn Evan Mobley into an all-star player, then maybe running it back, if you will, again, not whole roster, but with these 4 guys, is the best way to go. I don't see a better option. Obvious option.
The problem with it all is that that's the only option left. That they came into this with that same mindset. You know, everybody talked about how we should blow it up, how we should switch the front court, how we should trade one of the backcourt players. But in their mind, they kept saying that they wanted to keep it together, and their actions showed that now they have no choice because it's getting thin out there. You have no choice but to run it back and hope that the coach does make a difference.
Self-sabotage at its greatest.
Well, that's what it is.
See, y'all thought y'all was smart. See, this is why the Duke and knee-jerk, this is why y'all give me these names. Y'all thought, go ahead, what you got to say?
Before we get into that next topic, let me just ask you all one question to finish this out. Of the names that we've talked about, the free agents that seems to be linked to the Cleveland Cavaliers, does any of these guys move the needle for you all at all as far as roster improvement?
No.
It does not move the needle enough to surpass some of the other teams in the East that have made legitimate additions. But the one guy on the list that we didn't mention yet that I actually think does fit is Nick Batum, who is older and is by no means, he is not Paul George. He is not Mikal Bridges. He is not in that, I'm not trying to, however, he is a 6'9" guy who brings playoff experience and can shoot to put alongside either Mobley or Allen at the 5. Of that list, he's my favorite,
Nicholas
but that's
Batum. G was about to go off on a rant that I wanted to hear. Come on.
Let her get the read and then we can go on the rant because we got to set up the rant though with a certain quote. We got to set it up.
He's about to go off here.
It's 2:20 is the quote, by the way.